I am Mukhwana Isaac, welcoming you to episode 12. It is a journey through the Bible where we dive into the word of the Lord. And we want to thank God for yet another week. And we thank Him for the gift of life. We want to thank Him for the many blessings, for the uncountable things that He has done for us, that He continues doing in our lives. In our previous program, we looked at the Cain's children, the Thessites, and many other things. We saw good people, yes. However much they were bad people, they were also good people that existed during that time. And because evil still continued existing and winning good, God decides to punish his people. And that is why today we now look at the flood. Genesis chapter 6 from verse 1 to 9 and 17. When you read Genesis chapter 6 from verse 1 to 4, it gives us the reason why mankind had fallen so low morally that God had decided to destroy mankind by a flood. The population had increased. The descendants of Seth and Cain married one another. But the way in which the writer says, in one breath, the sons of God, here we are talking about children of Seth, mainly the pious people and the daughters of men. He wants to show the earthly spirit of these people and to point out their polygamous and immoral lives. Noah would now be saved because he was just. That is how Noah gets to be saved. For him, he was pious, he was just. After the flood, God made a covenant. This is an agreement, yes. When we talk about a covenant, we are referring to when we talk about a covenant, we are referring to an agreement. Now, he made this with Noah and blessed him, just as he had blessed Adam and Eve. I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. Genesis chapter 8 verse 20 to 9 and 17. God makes a bow. We normally see the rainbow. You see, rainbow. That is what the Lord did to seal a covenant that no more killing people. He does that. He vows. We do not have to believe all the details of the story of the flood. It would not be possible. Scientifically, it can be shown that there was no such flood over all the earth in man's history on earth. 40 days of rain would not be sufficient to cover the mountains, because we read that mountains were covered and many other things. So 40 days wouldn't be sufficient even if it rained from morning up to evening. And of course, there are similar stories of a flood from other ancient Eastern civilizations. The story of the flood in the Bible is a lesson about God's justice, which punishes sin, an eye for an eye. But again, it is not related. It's something I've just brought in because as we move on, we are going to look at that. But of course, with God, there is nothing like an eye for an eye. But justice prevails. That is what you should know. It is also in chapter. It is also in chapter in the chapter on God's merciful love, which warns sinners, keeps and protects a just man's family, and promises to be lenient with weak mankind in the future. The colors of the rainbow are made by the sunlight falling on raindrops. The rainbow should remind us of God's mercy and love on mankind. After that, Noah and his children, of course, survived, and we see after some time, Noah curses his children and blesses them. We are now in chapter 9, verse 18 to 29. God had shown mercy on mankind, but men began to sin again. Just like today, you do something, you fall, instead of after being forgiven, still you do it again. Just like a pig that is being washed and it goes back into what? Dirt. Ham sinned against purity and against the virtue of piety, which children owe their parents by looking at his father Noah, who lay sleeping naked. Noah cursed Ham and blessed Shem and Japheth, who had clothed him. Blessed by the Lord, may God be Shem, and let Canaan, the sons of Ham, be his slave. God enlarged Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his slave. Chapter 19, verse 26 to about 27. God is called the God of Shem. God would keep his friendship throughout history with Shem's children. The Hebrews from whom the Savior was born were Semites, children of Shem. But not only the Semites would be saved and blessed, the whole world would have the chance to be blessed. According to the writer of this story, only Noah and his 3 sons and their families were saved. You see, by saying that children of Ham and Japheth would be blessed, the writer wanted to teach that all mankind would receive the good things given to Shem. And so the children of Japheth would be blessed by being invited as guests to Shem's tent, chapter 9, verse 27. This means that the church would be the tent for mankind to enter and receive blessings. Every day, every Sunday, we are at church receiving blessings. And so the children of Ham would also be blessed for as servants of Shem and Japheth. They would, like all servants at that time, honor the God of their master. Thus, Ham's descendants also would find their way to salvation. In Noah's blessing, the first announcing by God of salvation is carried a step further. And so many men throughout history, even among the Hebrews, would turn away from God, but a few would always remain faithful. Through them, the grace of salvation would be given to all. Thank you for journeying with me. I have been Mukhwana Isaac with the journey through the Bible, and that brings us to the end of episode number 12. Tomorrow we shall continue drawing lessons from chapter. Okay, we shall look at chapter 10. That is what we shall look at tomorrow, and after that we conclude. Thank you. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.